Hello, everyone, and welcome. So happy to have you on here as the live chat, or if you're watching on the replay. Tonight we have Grayson Donfrio. Am I saying that right?
That's right, Donna for you.
Yeah. Of Wildwoods Honeybee Farm. And tonight we're going to be talking intentional beekeeping. We're going to be talking about what it's like to be a beekeeper if you're younger, and feeding, so many other topics, and how that meshes with intentional beekeeping. Grayson is from southeastern Alabama,
That's right. I'm
and I
from
think he
South.
has one hive right now, but he's been keeping bees for about 7 years. So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, Grayson?
Sure, I appreciate you, inviting me on your beekeeping chat. I really do appreciate it. We started about 7-ish years ago. I was around 7 to 6 years old, somewhere
Yep.
around there. I'm 14 years old right now, and I have one half so far. I've been keeping bees for about 7 years, like I said. And when we started, it really wasn't my idea to really get into bees or anything. My mom was just really, um, kind of probably saw something like on YouTube or something about bees or on Instagram, that kind of thing.
Same,
And we
actually.
decided that maybe it'd be a good hobby to get into, maybe get some bees, and it'll be a piece of cake. It'll be easy to
Yep.
do, and we got the bees, and it wasn't the easiest thing to do, but we were able to do it. So that's really how we got into bees. And about a year or two later, when I was a little older, I really took over
Hmm.
the beekeeping business, or the hobbyist beekeeping operation that we have here. And and give you a little bit more context, we had two hives when we got into beekeeping. We got about two hives. We were thinking about
Yep.
maybe getting one, but we decided to get two, just so then we can have, a lot of times, you want to have two just in case if one, is weaker than the other, so you can be able to see, if you have one that maybe is weaker, that because if you have one, right, and it's kind of weak, you don't know it because you're a beginner beekeeper. But if you have two, you can kind of compare both of
Yep.
them. And we decided we'd get two because that's what we were told that would probably be the best. So
Hmm.
that's what we did. We brought them back and we went down to Florida. Just kind of took a little road trip down there and brought them back on a trailer. Put them. First, we were actually going to put them in our front yard, not too far away from the house. But then the bees started kind of coming close to the house, so we decided that wouldn't be a good idea. Then we just put a little bit more out into our woods. But that's why on my videos you'll see a lot of
Trees.
trees and
Yeah.
stuff in my apiary, and bees. I don't see anything that's uh, any cons about it. Like it's somewhat shady too, but you still get sun through the trees, but just not much. But that's really how we got into bees, and then we kind of kept going with it for a couple years, like maybe two,
Yeah.
3 years, and then we kind of stopped because we just didn't have any suits because our dogs chewed them up, so we didn't have any protection. So we still had those two halves, so we just let them do whatever. We didn't go out and check them. We didn't do anything for about a year.
Yep.
Then I guess it was really me kind of thinking about maybe we should get some new suits and everything. So we got new suits. We got pretty much everything that we already had, but plus more. Two more smokers, uh, a lot of bee suits, gloves, or those kind of things. And we went back out to the bee yard, and we also got an extractor too, and we were able to do some honey. And I can remember, this is one thing I can
Hmm.
remember. It really was a very, very interesting experience at that time whenever we did that extraction, because these bees that we had, they were very, very spicy. So when we got there, they were all over our veils, and we
Yeah.
just, sometimes that, can scare beekeepers, or, whatever. And that's really how we got into bees. We got back into it. We did two extractions in my 7 years. I hope to do some more this year, maybe, and kind of keep going. Like I said, you said also, I only have one hive right now, but we plan to regroup this year and try to um, do a little bit better this year. I'd say, try to regrow and stay a little bit more level, because I've never really had a good time where I was, being sustainable, on my hive. So this year, that's what we're going to try to do.
Yep. So about a year ago, you kind of made this switch, or well, partially, your channel became a lot about the idea of intentional beekeeping. They talk about it in the stream team deep
Sure.
bee chats. So what does that really mean to you, Grayson?
Yeah. Well, I first picked up this word from the string team, and and really everything I talked about really before that really did go back to being intentional. And before I heard the word intentional, even sometimes now, I'm not the best
Yeah.
intentional beekeeper, of course, and it's really hard to be intentional. But before I, started going into this intentional beekeeping and really, digging it, I really wasn't intentional at all. And really, what intentional
Yeah.
beekeeping means is being intentional, having a purpose for going out to the bee, or not going out there just because you want to open bees and for no reason, right? But if you're going out there to learn about the bees, I think that's good too.
Hmm.
And intentional beekeeping really is something that is really important for beekeepers because a lot of times beekeepers, when will go into their hives way too much, like every day or something. And I used to do that too. And for me, and I have experience with this, is that whenever you do that, you put stress on the bees, and the bees are never really able to get anything done because you're constantly being um, unintentional going into beehives every day. So it's always good to be
Yeah.
intentional with your bees, being able to be intentional. And I've talked about this all on my channel too, about being intentional. That's really where my channel kind of goes around too. It goes also to proactive beekeeping, a lot of different sayings that, is really important in the beekeeping industry for beekeepers to be successful. And I always say, one part of being successful is being intentional too. And for me, I've always wanted to, I remember whenever I was thinking about, me going to my bees too much, being unintentional. And then that word kind of struck me also whenever I was watching the string team. They have a good little beekeeping chat every Wednesday night. And I just kind of, took that in and said, I should be more intentional. I should share this, this word out to, more beekeepers. And that's what I've been
Yeah.
trying to do. And I think intentional beekeeping is really important. A lot of beekeepers fail to miss it, and they're saying, "Oh, well, you really don't need to be intentional." Well, you really do need to be intentional as much as you can, and of course, you're not going to be, intentional, overnight. But I what I always try to say to beekeepers when I say, it's really important to be intentional is, build to be intentional. Just really build and keep going and
Hmm.
learn from your mistakes instead of looking back to the past. And there's a lot of times where I go back to the past and say, well, I wish I'd done something different and something that I did something I did and I could do it. I could have done it different, and kind of get stuck on the past sometimes. And I've been in those scenarios too, really. And there's times where you also think that I was so unintentional there. If I was intentional, then I would have been more successful. But
Yeah.
you can think about that all you want, but it's really not going to do you any good. So one thing that I always say is, instead of looking to the past, is always look to the future and look to the future and be able to look forward and say, all right, I can be a little bit more intentional. I'm going to try my best to work to be more intentional. And that's really what it means, is really having a purpose for what you're doing, whether it be I'm going out to bee yard because I haven't inspected my bees for about 2 weeks and I need to go back out there to check and make sure my queen is laying, make sure I can see the
Yeah.
queen, make sure you have a strong, healthy hive, ensure their health, and a whole bunch of various things that's important for a beekeeper to do. So I'm not saying that you should just leave your hive for a couple years or anything, but you just need to be
Yeah.
intentional with your bees and what you're doing with your bees. So then that kind of is just really what I've always said. It's really basic and simple, but whenever you kind of dive more deep into it, it's really something that is really important whenever you're going to be a beekeeper, and really
Yeah.
whenever all that I would say success comes from is really, over time, being able, I've always say hands-on experience. I've been keeping bees for 7 years. I have a lot of experience, getting to the bees too much and being really unintentional. It really didn't end well. So really, that's really what intentional is, and what it really means to me is really having a purpose for your bees, being able to like I said, have a purpose for the bees, and what you're going to be doing. Like I said, make sure your queen's laying, see if your bees need food, some of those different
Hmm.
things.
Do you think that extends to like planning for the next year? I think that's part of the intentional.
Yeah, it definitely does go to that too. Planning for the next year, what you're doing, and always get to plan, right? That's really what I've been doing this year too. Like whenever I had all these other hobbies, and die unfortunately, I've been really,
Yeah.
really planning on what I'm going to be doing, how I'm going to be better being intentional with my bees in the future, try to urge myself to be more intentional, right?
Yep.
And even now, there's sometimes, where I really want to get into bees, but then I tell myself I shouldn't because that's gonna be really unintentional. And that happens to every beekeeper. It really is just a reality of, keeping bees because, you love the bees so much you really want to inspect them all the time. But, from what I know and what I've, been keeping bees, it's really important to be intentional. And I've been trying my best to be better, being intentional and really being a better beekeeper for, everything, really being a better
Yep.
beekeeper and really trying to, extend that and do the best I can, and of course, keep going. And a lot of times, there's a lot of times where beekeepers get discouraged, and
Absolutely.
maybe, and sometimes, really, what I tell beekeepers who get discouraged, frustrated, or whatever, keep going because just because you had this, you know, um, this time in your period of your keeping bees that maybe you failed, maybe something happened to your bees. You always have to look forward to what you have to do next, to plan next, to take that
Yep.
next step. It's really what I always, say. And that really does go along with intentional beekeeping too. And everything I really say really does go into all in one, really, being intentional and stuff. But really that's really does go into planning too. It really does go into that and being a little bit more intentional because I'm always planning. I'm really, no matter what I'm doing, I'm really thinking about bees, trying to be a little bit more
Yeah.
intentional. So that's just how I've always been. But unless if my mind's completely on something different, I'm always have a thought in my mind about what I'm going to do next to be a better beekeeper.
Yep. Yeah. James here. I think it's have a reason to go into the hive.
Sure,
That's a key
that's right.
one. My mentor, she used to live 2 houses down from me. She told me when we started, you never want to go into your hives, like unless very specific circumstances. Uh, 5 days, at least 5 days in between inspections, at the least. And she would do it most of the time every other week. Obviously, I've done more inspections than that with making splits or raising queens, but as a general rule for beekeepers, at least 5 days minimum for your normal checks.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely something important. And like Jim said, it's really having a reason to go into your hive, really. And a lot of times, beekeepers will ask, what's the reason not to go into your hive? If really, the biggest reason to not go in your hive is if there is anything that that you don't need to do. You know, if a lot of times, if there's nothing for you to do in there, why are you really going in there, right? And sometimes I ask myself too. Sometimes whenever I'm going into my hives, like what's really my purpose going to this hobby? Because if my purpose is really nothing that you know I need
So
to
it's the
do, then
bees, yeah, yeah,
that's right, that hurts the bees in the future. That I shouldn't do that. But like I said, if it's you know a week or two maybe that you haven't inspected your bees and you say, all right, I need to go into my bees and make sure they're not about to swarm, make sure they
yeah,
have a healthy queen. Just some of those basic things. It really is basic to understand. I try to make it as basic as I can to make it understandable really for beginner beekeepers or or any beekeeper who's watching. And that's just really what intentional beekeeping is, really being intentional with your bees.
yeah. There's a great quote that Greg says, um, "If you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail." That's the
Yeah, I've
quote.
heard of that before.
Yeah, yeah.
It's definitely
It's
something that I agree with.
Yeah, for sure. It makes a big difference. I try to get my whole season. I'm in the process of it right now in February. To give you context, I don't do my first inspection here till mid-April probably. So I still got time, but I'm, finalizing all my plans, planning when I'm going to do all my splits, how many frames, getting all my equipment ordered and built, all that stuff now. And so I will be, make that intentional choice to be prepared when, comes to
That's right.
June and July.
That's right. That's definitely important. And that's really all there is to really be said about intentional beekeeping. Really, is being preparing to be intentional. Whenever
Yep.
whenever your time it is to do splits or whatever. And that's I'm ready for the bee season too. And I've really, really, this year been planning really, out of my mind, trying to make sure that I have my plan set so then when I get into the beekeeping season, even though, right now, we have really, really, really warm weather, I'm still
Yep.
about we're about to get into March, and we're going to be getting 6 nukes in April. So we have a little bit till we're going to be doing that. So I have time to be able to plan what I'm going to be doing for these nukes that we're going to be getting, and really plan to be
Yep.
intentional with these nukes. Really.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of drawn comb to give them?
Drone comb. We do have some
Drawn
drone
comb.
comb. Oh, drawn comb. Oh, yes, I do. I have a lot of drawn comb I put in my hives. I actually recently went out to my bee apiary today. I did feed my one hive a little bit of sugar syrup. I didn't never open them because really the thing is, today actually, when I was out there, I was thinking I shouldn't be getting to this hive. For a split second, I was thinking maybe I should go into this hive, and then right then I just shut it out of my mind and said, well, I already inspected this hive like maybe a couple days ago. I don't really want to get into them again.
Yeah.
And no matter, really is, you're always going to get that thought into your mind. Sometimes when you see bees, sometimes you can't resist, but sometimes you're just going to have to tell yourself, not to do it. But anyway, I'm getting off track. But I was out there, I did that, and then I was out there for about 30 minutes, taking bottom boards and putting them on all my stands, along with my boxes, my lids, and some drawn frames, so they'll already be ready. So everything's ready in the bee yard whenever they come, whenever, we pick them up and bring them back. So, everything's really going to be ready. So then, when they get here, I won't have to be scrambling everywhere to try to get everything ready. So, that's, I guess, you call that, a good bit of planning, intentional planning. I really have an intentional what I'm going to do. I've also been really thinking about, feeding these, nukes, because I want them to get really strong this year too. And that goes back to intentional too, being intentional with that too. And there's a lot of different things that go back in intentional, but that's what we're doing. And we do have drawn comb. We have a little bit from, dead outs that unfortunately, didn't survive the winter this year, and we're kind of getting ready for that, and really go forward and try to rebuild this year. This, I'm kind of calling this a rebuild year this year, and try to change some different management strategies, I will say, and try to change different things that I know that don't work, and implement some of the things that do work with my one hive that I have still surviving really, really well. Implement those things that I've done with that hive to my new nukes I'm going to be getting here soon, and keep all my nukes alive. And I mentioned on a video too that even though I'm going to be replacing all my hives that, unfortunately didn't make it, I still need to be being intentional. Doesn't mean I can just, walk away off into the sunset and, not think about anything. And, I always think about that too. And, I need to be doing everything I can to make sure all my bees stay alive this year, and, not have the same year like I did, in 2023 going into 2024.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, well, from what Bruce said, and I know you guys are in somewhat similar locations, it was just a terrible beekeeping year in South Alabama. Yeah.
It wasn't the best of a flow, and Bruce can agree with me too. Excuse me, I, I'm about a little bit north of Bruce. I'm probably about an hour north of him, down there in Dauphin. So not really much of a little bit, maybe a half a degree change, or maybe a degree change, but he's a little bit more south of me, and we really have similar temperatures. But really, last year we struggled with the flow because, in spring we didn't have a good flow, and when you go into the DERF, hives are robbing each other out, and we don't have much nectar. So I did some feeding in the DERF too, and I did a lot of videos too. And really, when I look back into my videos, I really don't like to go back and look at some of my old videos from that bee yard, because I had a second bee yard, and I look back at this one strong hive. It was like it's so good. It was doing so good. And for some reason, I decided I would split it down 3 ways, and none of those are alive. And I just figured that if I never split that hive, they'd probably still be alive. Of course, I don't know, but they'd be stronger. I'd at least have 2 more hives, at least, 3. So I also think about, whenever you want to expand. Of course, everybody wants to expand like rapidly, and that's what I tried to do last year, and it failed quickly. I went up to about 15, maybe even 17 hives, with that. But all those were weak hives. All those were not strong hives at all. No queens, some of those different things. So instead, rather than having like 20, 15 hives that are weak, instead you could have 5 to 7 hives that are very, very strong, and that will produce you a good bit of honey, or help you, do whatever you want to do for 2024 season. So that's what we're gonna do this year, make better decisions. Last year I didn't make the best decisions, so this year we're gonna kind of go into a better decision making. When we're doing different things, and I think everybody who has a down year should. But that's what we're. But like I said, we didn't have a good flow last year, and that kind of damaged our bees, and we had a bad beetle problem along with that. So last year was really, really not a good
Rough.
year
Yeah.
in my book. So
Yeah. I think you were talking about you don't want to do two frame splits again because they didn't do that well last year. I think you could probably do two frame splits again, but I would do them in March or April, and that would give the bees plenty of time on the flow to build up before the dearth and those hard times. So, a beekeeper explained it to me like this: as the year gets farther and farther on, your splits need to be bigger and bigger and bigger to make it through the winter. So if you were making those splits in June or July, and at that point, two frame splits, it's going to be really tough to get those bees ready for winter. Whereas, March or April, you can probably pull it off.
Definitely. I was thinking the same thing too a little bit. I did those. Those were kind of a little bit more later, right? They were in the dearth too. And another thing that also I knew what was the problem too is that when I did those two frame splits, I didn't, give them, I just left some eggs and larvae. I used to, just let
Walk away.
them
Yeah.
walkway splits, right? And I'm leaving them for like 4 weeks without a queen, and not much. There's some
That's a long
brood too,
time.
opening. That's a long time, and bees die. So that's what really happened with those two frame splits. So if I ever decided to do that again, I'm gonna have to order queens, but
Or make
what I
cells. Yeah.
really or make cells, right? And but really just trying to make stronger splits if we do any splits this year, right? I'm not planning on splitting any of my nukes that I get because they probably won't need it, unless for some reason they make swarm cells and I have to, but they're not really going to. So I really wouldn't think that they would because a lot of times they probably wouldn't. But then we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm not going to make any promises on what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do. Just try to really be proactive in this case scenario. Try to think about different scenarios that I may be in. Try to prevent anything that may happen. Instead of being reactive. And I found that important too in my situation.
My guess is you should be able to split them if you're giving them all drawn comb. I've split my nukes in Maine right after I installed them, practically maybe 2 or 3 weeks. If you have drawn comb and they're a great nuke, which hopefully they will be, you'll probably have the chance to. But it also makes sense if you want more honey. Less splitting means more honey. So
that's right. This year we're actually going to try to do some more honey. This year, last year we weren't able to get any honey, so this year we're going to see about maybe trying to get some honey, and see how that kind of goes along, and we'll just see how the year goes by and plan for that too. And especially my strongest hive right now, they may need some splitting if they start to make swarm cells, and if I see that, then I will split them because might as well split them rather than lose half the hive, and probably do that if that happens.
yeah, you could go for it and try to make them a cell builder for you, especially if you get towards that point. And you could, move half the bees away without the old queen, get them started, put a queen excluder on, put back the box on once the cells are started, and that could help you get you some queens. Here's James here: 7 dead outs to refill, 1 10-frame double deeps, 6 8-frame double deeps, 7 alive. Yeah, just let us know in the chat, guys. Anyone who's here, put how's your spring going and how many hives you've had through the winter. How well you did. It's James's 5th season.
5th season, all right.
Sarah's Happy Hives. Hey, reindeers, bees, and Grayson. Hi back. And got Gunline bees here. Good evening, young men. And so everyone's all excited because you're here, Grayson.
There's a good lot of folks that I know and that I've talked to over the years, and really I've been actually on this beekeeping community for about a year and a couple more months, I would say. And really, I guess I'm going to talk about this. I might as well when I'm talking about when I started. Whenever we had our YouTube channel, and a lot of beekeepers wanted to know how I did with my how did I come up with my name and too. Really, if you can see, and you'll get the term too. We're in the woods. Our bees are in the woods and they're wild. So, we call it Wildwoods, and Honeybee Farm. So, we kind of made that phrase
Yeah.
up. And then, I made the channel and it just really wasn't a big channel. It was like 20 subscribers. So, right now on my channel, you'll probably see that it's like so big right now, but really it started from nowhere. And I decided I'd upload more videos of beekeeping. I just really just wanted to, do small ones. They maybe got a couple likes or two, maybe 2 likes, 3 likes, which I really didn't care. And then I just kind of started to build up, and beekeepers found me. One beekeeper who found me, and I was on his live stream. That's really when I started live streaming, and I actually got into this whole thing about doing live streams, and decided I'd do my own. And that's really kind of how I got started in that.
Yep.
And really, it's not really just about me, being able to share what I do. It's really also about whenever I listen to live chats, I really like to listen to whatever beekeepers have to say, whether it be the stream team,
Absolutely.
or whether it be some other beekeepers who do weekly live streams. There's a lot of weekly live streams. It's really hard to watch everybody, because I know earlier today, like Fred was live. You know who Frederick Dunn is. He was live, and I
Yeah.
was able to chat in for a second, and I was kind of busy at that point, so I was able to chime in the whole thing. And really, on all live streams, it's kind of hard to chime in and talk all the time, but I'm able to do it too, and I really like to do it. And really, that's my goal on really on this beekeeping community. It's a really good community, a lot of good folks who watch other beekeepers channel. I try to watch a lot of other beekeepers channels too. A lot of beekeepers who watch mine, I like to watch them back too. And really good community, and a lot of people learn a lot of stuff from YouTube, and be able to see other beekeepers, bees, and what they do on their
Mhm.
in their circumstances. And I find that really fun to do, and interact with beekeepers from all over the globe. And I know you're up there in Maine, so that's up
Pretty
there.
far. Yeah.
And I'm sure it's probably pretty cold up there too. And very, very different from down here in Alabama. And we have really warm weathers, but I find it really, really good and stuff.
Yeah. My favorite story to tell is early February last year. We had a night with wind chill that it got to -40 Fahrenheit.
Really
-40. Yep.
negative, like -40. Wow.
Fahrenheit.
Uh,
Yeah. It was with wind chill, but it was probably around -15 without wind chill.
-15. Wow. I don't think I'd take that. I'll just stay down here. With nice 80-degree days and 70-degree days in February, and we'll be good down here.
Grayson, you have to come up north during the summertime. That's when it's nice. You can
Yeah,
come
I'm
visit
sure
me in
that's
my.
probably pretty nice up there.
It
In
is. It's very
summertime.
nice. We had maybe one 90-degree day this year.
90-degree day, really. Yeah, that's
Yep.
actually pretty warm. Down here,
Yeah.
we'll get 100-degree days some days. Sometimes it'll be 101, 102. I know some days it can get up to, it's been up to about maybe 132. It can get pretty warm down here. And you know, and it does. But up north, I'm sure, during summer it'd be really, really nice. It's not, hot, 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 but it's not, cold, too cold either.
Absolutely. So, you're talking about the beekeeping community. What challenges become or do you have as a young beekeeper? And how does the beekeeping community here on YouTube and, in your state, how do they help you with these challenges?
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that I have trouble with. And I've received feedback a lot of times, and beekeepers suggesting different things to me, and I really do appreciate that too. And I try to listen to other beekeepers, right? And really, a lot of challenges for me really was of course a lot of my bees unfortunately didn't make it this year. Excuse me.
Hmm.
And last year we didn't have a good flow, so that affected us too. And we last year we really didn't have a good year with the bees themselves, and kind of a down year this year too. And along with splits too, splits didn't go good at all. So then I've mentioned this on the beekeeping community, on my beekeeping chats, wherever, and I mentioned these problems, and I like to hear feedback from other beekeepers. And a lot of times beekeepers don't want to say any of their problems or any of their troubles, something that may be frustrating them that they don't want to share, because maybe they're nervous that they'll look, I don't know really what the word is, silly because they say it or anything, but I really try to be honest on my beekeeping channel. Really be honest, and I like to hear feedback too. A lot of other beekeepers suggest to me whether it be different ideas to do splits that may be better for my area. I know a lot of beekeepers down here. We have a couple local beekeepers, like Bruce down there and Dauphin. There's a lot of other beekeepers down there too. I can't name all of them. You got Go On Bees down there too. In Mobile, Alabama. Um, actually, talk to them too, and receive feedback from them. There's just a lot of beekeepers around here, and really, like we were talking about, the beekeeping community, and the beekeeping community is really a good community. A lot of good people who support, beekeepers. I try to support beekeepers too. Any beekeeper, and I really try to support back, and I also really do appreciate support that goes my way, and that's really what motivates me to keep going, really, and having feedback from beekeepers, kind of suggesting different things, and also being supportive, and a lot of that different kind of whatnot, and we appreciate that. And we had a lot of different challenges, also being a little younger, um of course, I've been keeping bees for 7 years. But no matter how long you keep bees, there's always something new to learn. There's always something that you can always take in from another beekeeper, no matter their age, or no matter you could be a random, I don't, maybe 30, and you can take some advice from a younger beekeeper, and it'd be some good advice, and or the other way around. And really, that's what I really like about the beekeeping community too. And a lot of beekeepers will listen to my videos, or whatever, and that and the beekeeping community really does help with helping other beekeepers, not just me, and but a lot of people. A lot of times that stuff happens, and that's really why I like this community. And I've been here in this community for about a year, and like I said, a couple months, and received a lot of support on my channel. And really not really, my channel is not just about like I always say, it's not always about me trying to teach other beekeepers, but it's also for me to be able to take in information from other beekeepers to maybe help me be a better beekeeper. And that's kind of what I like to do. And hope I answered your question decently good, but really that's um what we what I try to look at, in the beekeeping community. Really, all I can say to beekeepers who watch my channel is thank you for, helping me out. And, also, a lot of times I have beekeepers who, email me too, and say, you can always, if you need help, you can always email me, and, or, text me, or, whatever, that kind of thing. And I really appreciate that too. And it really is a help to not just me, but a lot of beekeepers, for beekeepers to be able to, beekeepers helping beekeepers. And that's kind of what I like about it. And that, I found a really good feeling out of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, when you talked about, learn a 30-year-old learning from your videos or someone younger's videos, I'm actually mentoring two people. They're both probably about 40 years older than me, or 30 years older than me. But yeah. So,
Their lines is right.
he just said that.
We can learn from
Yeah, it's
whatever age. Yeah, that's
yeah,
that's
it's very
100% matter.
profound,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. So from what I understood from your response was, just help those beekeepers, whether on YouTube or not, support them, reach out to them, and just make sure that they are able to learn and are supported by other people, basically, right?
Definitely. I want beekeepers to support every beekeeper, and there's a lot of times where there's beekeepers who fight among beekeepers, and I really don't see any need for that too. A lot of times there's a lot of controversial this in beekeeping, whether it be treating for mites or whatever. But really, what I like to see from beekeepers is saying that, all right, I really um I'm not really, I don't know the correct way to put it, but I respect your opinion, but I just I have different ways to do it, basically. And I really like to see more like that. And really, no matter if they're a treatment-free beekeeper or they treat bees, I like to support them either way or another. And that's, I like to support, I also like every beekeeper supporting beekeepers too. And it really does help our community be a better place for newer beekeepers to come in, so they can feel welcome to ask questions, and they don't have to feel like there's any pressure that, oh, if I ask a question, they're going to think I'm a terrible beekeeper or something, And there's a lot of beekeepers who feel that way, and you really don't need to be. Honestly, just ask a question, and it'll be right answered. It'll be answered right away for my personal opinion or somebody else's personal opinion.
Absolutely. Respectful disagreement is always important, and the more information that's transferred, the better normally. I
Yeah,
mean, there's some oddballs, but for the most part, the more we know, the better.
definitely.
So we got gun line here. Do both of y'all have equipment ready for the season? Wax foundation, building boxes, such. How's that going for you, Grayson?
It's going good so far right now. I have a lot of supers, that I have out in my bee yard, stacks of it, and also have some things kind of squared away to kind of saving too. I do have some foundation that I do have waxed, and really I have everything I do need. We are planning on building some boxes this year too. We want to build some boxes for ourselves and be able to use them in our apiaries too. That's what we're going to try to do. Like Unlon says, building boxes, and we like to build stuff like that too. It's fun to build them, and we enjoy um building boxes or lids or bottom boards, and they turn out pretty good. And actually, I'm using two of my bottom boards that me and my granddad made. We made them, and it was our first time making them. And we just took a bottom board that we had and kind of copied it, and it turned out perfect. I use it right now too. I'm gonna use it whenever I put my nukes into it, and it works really, really well. And I'm surprised on how well it turned out too on our first try. And also on our first try, we made some boxes. We used the box joints, and it took a little bit to build. Cut a lot of those cuts in the perfect way,
Mm-hmm.
and it works good. And there's some different measurements that works decently good, and it was our first time. There's a couple places where it isn't perfectly even, but I really don't think that's going to bother it too much. And plus, I was actually really, really surprised on how well it really turned out for our first try. And then we made some nukes for our dad, and he helped me with that too, and we built those. And if you go back to my videos, people who wonder about that kind of different stuff, you probably can go back and look at it and see what they look like. Right now they're kind of darker. They look a little bit different because they've been in use. I've used all three of them, and they turned out perfect. They look similar to Bob Benny's boxes. A lot of people said that's the kind of design, and that's where actually who we watched. I actually watched the video of how Bob Benny makes his nuke boxes, and that's kind of how we build them. And we have all our stuff ready. We're still planning. We're still trying to make sure we are ready for this bee season. I'm ready for it, and when it comes, and we'll be able to start off fresh. We have one hive, and we'll once we get these nukes, we'll have about 7. So we'll kind of go back where we started and try some different management plans and different management styles. A little bit different this year than it worked last year, but overall, we do have all our stuff ready. All my beekeeping equipment is out in the bee yard ready for the nukes too, and we've been really working on that. So that's kind of how we're going. But what about you? How's your beekeeping equipment coming along?
So I haven't, since I have so much more time than Grayson, because I'm in Maine, I haven't got it all together. I just wrote my supply list for the year and was estimating the price, and editing it down, of course, because the first draft said $1,500, so that was a little too much for me. And so I was working through that, and the other day I have around 270 medium frames for honey supers.
Yeah.
And so I sorted all of those, and I've got about 90 drawn frames, fully drawn, about 80 partially drawn frames, and then another, I think it was like 90 more undrawn frames. So about, 30 split.
Oh, really? Cool.
And so I was working
with
those frames.
Oh, cool.
You got Bruce? Yeah.
There you go. There you go, Bruce. We're just talking about you down there in Dothan, Alabama.
Yeah. When are you going to get down there, Grayson? I'm dying to see the collaboration.
Oh, I talked to Bruce too. We're gonna try to do that last year, and we're gonna try to collaborate. I want to do that too, and we're gonna try to kind of. I was gonna go down there, like I said last year. We're gonna try to do a little collaboration, but at some point I'm gonna hit Bruce up, and we're gonna try to meet and do a video, and everybody will enjoy it.
I will be watching with bated breath. I can't wait.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And yeah, definitely, definitely good beekeeping community. And no, I do have a question here. I know you're the one who's asking questions, but I do have one little question that I've probably asked a couple times, but I'm a really good um uh rememberer at remembering stuff. But how many hives do you have, and really, what are you trying to accomplish this year?
I have 18 right now. I had 25 going into winter, so I lost 7. And it was, most of that was just they weren't big enough. And I would attribute, I went through 5 of them. 5 of the dead outs in a video that I posted the other day if you want to see it. But most of them was just a size thing, and most of it, the reason why they were small was mite issues and just later season stuff like yours.
Oh,
And
yeah, I
what's
get
my goal for this year? 40. I want 40. I saw that. Yeah.
it. Oh,
um,
Bruce.
I want, I want 40 hives for this year, and I hopefully am going to go work for a commercial beekeeper because I'll be graduating high school in June, and I'm not planning on going to college. So hopefully I'll get to work year round at that beekeeping company, and that'll allow me to grow and learn and not make all the same mistakes they did at some time. The company's been around for a long time, like 70 years, but
Oh,
um,
wow.
or at least 50, yeah. And I think I'll probably need 250 colonies to make a living. And my grandparents' farm is they're pretty much done farming at this point, and it's going to stay in the family. So it will be likely the future bee farm.
Oh, really? That'll be cool. I'm gonna wait for that in a couple years, and I want to see how that goes along for you. And uh, thanks, Bruce. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah,
I got it for Christmas. I wanted to do
he
it, and,
loves the hat.
every chat I do, uh, DC. I'm sure DC sometimes joins your chat too. He'll mess with
Yep.
me, and oh, it's so funny. And um, for me, when I read the comments and stuff like that. Yeah,
I
we'll
I
send you one
don't
too.
have I don't have a Bama hat, Bruce, but this does sit on my desk.
Oh,
I am a
good,
Bama
good,
fan. So,
really.
I hope that works, Bruce. Yeah, I have a Bama sweatshirt. I'll try to wear it next time for you, Bruce. But yeah, I am a Bama fan. I wouldn't mind a hat though. That'd be fine
Oh
with
yeah,
me.
yeah, definitely.
We got we got Gunline Bees here and James.
We got
So
James.
so what are your goals then for
Really?
2024 and beyond?
Well, we do got a lot of goals and stuff, and like you're saying, I did have some. If people who don't know, like I said, I lost 5 hives over winter, have one, and really the goal this year is really try to grow our apiary, try to sustain it for all year. Is really what we want to do. We weren't able to sustain our apiaries for a good little while. We'd go up and down, but for once, I want to be able to be sustainable in my beekeeping apiary, sustain it, go on a flat level, and then keep slowly expanding and keep going. And then, eventually, we'll go up to maybe a soundliner scale, really. And a lot of beekeepers will ask, do you want to be a hobbyist forever? Do you want to be a soundliner maybe? Or do you want to be commercial? And I think I could do maybe one day, maybe on a slow journey, get up to about 50 hives, maybe. And then from there, maybe just kind of slowly go. I'm not going to try to automatically get 200 halves.
You're not
And
Seth Hill.
no, I can't do that. I don't know how Seth does it. He went from like 8 halves or to 80 or something.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about like, how does he, that's just something, how he does that. And he'd have to show me that to be able to really, um, be able to do it. But I'm not going to try to do that. I'm going to try to do it a little slower and a little bit more steady. And then get up to about 25 halves in the next couple years, and maybe 50 once we get to that point. And like I said, this year we're going to be in, And if I have the time, be a rebuild year, really
Hmm.
rebuild our apiary, really rebuild everything that we're doing, and try to sustain it for a good while, and then keep expanding. That's really just the plan this year, trying to be a little bit more intentional with our bees, be a little bit more proactive with our bees, trying to be a little bit more proactive, really, and instead of reactive. And other really than that, we may do a couple splits if our bees need it, if they are getting really, really too big, or if they are about to swarm.
Hmm. Have you thought about? I had a thought related to that. Um, I don't know. I can't remember. It was something about the splitting, but
Mm,
so you made a lot of small splits this
yeah, that's
year, or well, this last year, and which cost you some bees. How, like, you want to split some this year, right? Or are you just like not going to split them unless they swarm or get ready to swarm? I think he's frozen. We'll see if he becomes unfrozen here. I can't tell if it's my end or his end, but let me know in the chat. I think he's frozen. So I think. Are you back there, Grayson?
Yeah, I hear you. I think something happened with the internet. I don't know if that was me.
Yeah, I don't know if it was me or you, but
Uh,
with your splits, you only are going to split if they're about to swarm, or do you want to make some normal increases?
Unintentional reasons. That's what I'm gonna try to do. That's also I'm planning on being intentional with that too. And once I get to a point where all my hives are strong, probably next spring, if they're nice, good hives, I will do some splits for expansion. Once I get to that point, but for now, I'm just gonna do splits if I see that they're making swarm cells, or if they're making swarm cells and they have a queen, they're about to swarm, then I'll go and split them and do that. But then we'll see how it goes. And the only one I think that probably may swarm this year is my strongest hive that has like 30 frames of brood and like 4 frames of bees, or maybe more of that. You know,
Got Bruce here, intentional beekeeping. Yeah, Grayson talks about it a lot on his channel. I can't tell if
yeah.
he's frozen. Oh, okay, there you go.
Oh,
Um,
there we go.
it
Yeah,
keeps freezing. I can't tell if it's me or you, but
yeah. It might be me. So I don't know why it keeps freezing. I've had that
yeah,
problem sometimes on my live stream too, and stuff like that. But
yeah. Uh, one thing to keep in mind is I appreciate like that you've noticed an issue last year and that your hives are too small, but a lot of beekeepers, part of their sustainability is built into them splitting. Such
probably
like
so.
what I mean by that is they know they're going to lose some hives, so not
Sure,
all 7 of your hives are going to make it into winter. Probably, they might
sure.
because they most of them have your young queens and young colonies, but you might want to make 1 or 2 splits so you can have that backup because you're always going to be losing bees. You're always going to need an extra queen. So
That's right.
it makes sense to not go splitting crazy like last year, but you
That's
might want
right.
to consider making 1 or 2
Oh, yeah.
splits to have, just
Sure.
to as a backup.
That's
Ian
right.
does. I mean, all great
Yeah,
beekeepers do it. Bob,
sure.
Ian. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's important, and that's my plan to do. Like last year, I'm not going to oversplit, but I'm also not going to undersplit. I may do a couple splits just for on the side, like you said. If I have a very, very strong hive that loses a queen, I'll have this backup nuke that is very strong,
Hmm.
but I can just drop the frames in and the queens in there. And two, you can do that. Of course, you do got to be careful when you put those in there. Be able to introduce that queen too, because I've had times where the bees will kill that queen too, but most times what I hear is I've never done it, but I hear that sometimes you don't have to do that, but you might want to use like newspaper to combine them if that's something that it's a problem. I've had that problem too, that they will unfortunately the hive that you're introducing those frames to will kill that queen. So that's something I'll also do, or a queen or whatever. But that's really something I'm also thinking about too. Really, also, when you're saying about having a couple splits on the side, I think that's important. Like small hives, right? in nukes, and that's what Ian does, and Bob too. I've watched their videos too, and what Ian does, it's pretty cool and really good to have. And a lot of beekeepers talked about it before, but it's really good to have on hand. If you have like I said, a strong habit that loses a queen, you'll have a queen and some bees to spare. A backup battery, I guess that's what what Ian calls
Nuke
it, but
battery. Yeah.
nuke battery, yeah, that's definitely a good
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. It's to speak to that. Yeah. I want 40 colonies for winter, 28. I want 28 hives and 12 six-frame nukes. But my goal is to be in early August. I want to be at like 45 ish, maybe 46 or 47, because I know by, mid September, when I'm kind of putting the bees to bed and doing the last stuff, I'm going
Yeah,
to I'm going to lose probably, 5, 6, 7 hives. So if I have those backups, I'll really get to the number that I want instead of falling short like I have in
yeah,
past years. So we'll see how well I'll actually be able to execute that. But that's kind of my hope, slash goal for the year.
yeah, definitely a good
And
goal to do.
yeah, and the other great advantage to that is you don't have to buy a queen, and you don't have to wait to buy a queen. So if you wait a certain amount of time, the bees get older, then then the bees in the hives really don't want to accept a queen, because the older the bees get, the more unhappy and unlikely they will be to accept that next queen. And so having that backup where you can destroy the queen cells and put the nuke right in, it really expedites that process. And you were talking about combining hives and using newspaper. One way you can even make them more likely to accept that new queen is, if it's not easy, but if you pick her up and put her in a queen cage and then put duct tape around the queen candy,
Yeah,
you can leave her in there for maybe 3, 4, even 5 or 7 days if you want to. Then take off that duct tape and let them chew her out. And since there's so much time between when you first put her in there and when she will eventually get out, it'll really increase her chance of being accepted.
yeah, definitely, that's a good idea and good little thing there. Be able to have a better acceptance. Especially when you're doing that.
Yeah. Make sure you use duct tape though, not masking tape, because masking tape delays queens like a
Yeah,
day or two. Bob will poke a hole to make sure they know where to find the candy, but
yeah,
that'll delay them a day or two, is what he says. But duct tape, if you put 2 pieces of duct tape, one over the top and then one around that piece, no matter how hard they try, they can't chew through it. And so that'll just completely stop her from being let out till you let her out.
yeah, definitely. That's definitely a good idea. And duct tape and stuff.
Yeah. The interesting part with that is so many beekeepers were all dying to like let that new queen get out and get in the hive
Yeah,
and get laying eggs. But it
yeah.
takes 3 weeks for a bee to develop. So losing one more week is not a big deal in the grand
Oh
scheme
no,
of things. It's totally worth it to get her accepted.
definitely. I
How
think so. Yeah.
how much are queens down where you are at?
Oh, you mean prices? Um, well, they can be average around a mated queen. I can't remember whenever I bought some late season queens. They're about, I think, like $45 or $40 or something, maybe $50 at whenever you get kind of higher up there too. A lot of times, Russian queens are usually more if you're gonna buy them. But Italians are about $50 to $45. Sometimes they can be a little bit cheaper, $40, $30 too. And there's a lot of other ones that you can get. It really depends on what company you're going to buy them from. If you're going to buy it from Man Lake, which you can do, or if you're going to buy it from a local queen breeder, which is good too. Especially if you want some genetics that's kind of used to your area, you can do that too. A local breeder or some other different places. But if you want to buy queens, but it really does depend on the breeder and their decision on how much money they want to do it. But really, price is usually really good from about $50, maybe $45 too. Sometimes they'll go for $40, $30. I've seen them go for $40 too. And some beekeepers will do it even cheaper if they really want to get a better sell. But a lot of times, you really want to, if you're going to sell them, you want to get a good profit, which would probably be good to go for about $45, maybe a little bit more if you're going to mark her. But that's
Mhm.
usually where it goes for down here. For queens, it really depends on where you buy it and what kind of queens you're going to get, because a lot of times I've seen that Russian queens are a little bit more, but for prices, and Italians are a little bit more cheaper too. But really, just like I said, it really depends on where you're buying them from and the choice of how much they want to sell it for, and the bees, the genetics themselves.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was surprised. I thought they'd be cheaper in general in the South, just across
Yeah,
all categories, but
yeah,
about the same. I sell mine for $45 and $50, and here, I mean, you really can't get them cheaper than $40 or $45.
yeah. And like Bruce said, it really also depends on how many you order, because a lot of times if you order more, they'll give you a little bit more of a discount. So if you buy 8, 10, 20, you get a little bit more cheaper. But if you buy 50, you get a little bit more cheaper, but you're paying a little bit more because you're paying 50, but you get a little bit more percentage off. Sometimes they'll make deals, for beekeepers to do that if you're really trying to buy a lot of queens, which I'm probably not going to buy 50 queens, but it really does depend on who you buy it from and how many you do buy.
Absolutely. I'm going to send you and Bruce some queens someday, so you guys can try them out. See what
Really,
those. Yeah,
what kind of queens genetics do you use up there?
that's a great question. I wish I knew, but I can take a guess. But I mean, I like to think they're Carniolan mutts, but I'm really worried about their traits and not so much their color or what they look like. So I'm trying to breed a similar breed to Greg Burns, where they explode in the springtime, but they shut down brood rearing earlier in the year.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, that's my main goal. And well, obviously, I really want them to be really, really nice as well, and calm temperament. And yeah, I'm breeding towards that. And so someday you and Bruce are gonna get to try out some northern mutts.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and the other thing is I'm starting to breed for VSH, like mite
Oh,
resistance. So currently my computer is sitting on a UBO test kit. So I'm
oh,
gonna be I'm gonna be using that and testing my best colonies this year.
really? So you got a
And
good bit of VSH.
I would guess I don't have like practically any. So the reason why I bought the test was because I want to try it out and like get comfortable with it. So when next year when I have 40 hives, Kara Wagner said 2% of hives have like a good amount of VSH resistance. So probably out of my 18, I won't really have any, though I do have some hope because I bought 2 of Corey Stevens' virgin queens last year, and they're 2 of my strongest colonies. And I would guess that they're going to have some resistance. But I'll test it on video so everyone can see what they're getting with Corey's queens, because they've been great queens
Yeah,
for me.
that's pretty good. I know Corey. We've talked to him before. I've talked to him, and definitely, good queen breeder there, and definitely really good. And definitely what Bruce said. I got some late season queens too. And later in the year, they'll kind of price a little bit more down. But in the early, in like spring, there's a high demand, so a lot of times beekeepers will pay more. But then and later on, it's just kind of dies down, and beekeepers are not much in need of queens. But if you have times where you need a late season queen, then you can just order them and kind of get it a little bit more cheaper. Of course, some beekeepers probably won't, take it down too much, but there most likely there should be a little bit of difference start of the year, to late season fall queens if you want to order them. If you have a situation, maybe you have a queen that died and you can't spare another queen and you really want to save that hive. Maybe it's a very, very strong hive and you don't want to take it and combine it with another hive. Like it feels a very, very small hive, like a frame of bees. Probably just go on and combine it with your other hive, make another hive stronger. If you have another small hive, be able to do that too. But if you want to save it, if a very strong hive, probably can order some late season queens from a beekeeper, probably a little bit more cheaper. And I've done that before, and it's good queens.
Absolutely, yeah. You as long as the queens are reared well early or late, they can be great.
Sure.
Bruce here, Ashton Miller and Corey Stevens talk a lot about UBO testing on their channels. Yeah, I've seen their videos, Bruce. I won't be able to quite do the same thing as Ashby with his queen bee co-op, but I'm hoping to start a similar like breeding program up here in the north in Maine. We'll see how much success I have with it, but
Yeah,
really hoping to try to make a difference and try to hopefully get a lot of other beekeepers to participate in that.
yeah, that'd probably be good.
I'm excited. I mean, there's almost nothing more exciting for me than going and breeding bees. Like one of the best feelings in the world is after you're a queen, you check her, 2 weeks after you put in the queen cell, and you see a beautiful fat queen bee laying up frames and frames of eggs. It's just such a satisfying feeling. There's nothing quite like it.
Definitely.
Yeah. So someday though, Grayson, I'm going to send you and Bruce,
Yeah, definitely.
some virgins. Yeah.
Definitely. That'd be pretty good to try. I'm sure Bruce will probably make a video. I'd make a video too. See how they work out.
Yeah, I think they do just fine. I think, I think southern and northern bees do fine as long as they're, quality queens either way.
That's right.
All right. Well, we got one more comment to finish that. Yeah, cutting edge stuff. Absolutely, Bruce. New frontier. Yeah, it's crazy how fast change feels like it's happening. Maybe it's just because I haven't been beekeeping long enough to, have good context. But I've been a beekeeper for 6 years, and it feels like things are really starting to change with the Harbo assay that Corey's publicized a lot, and the UBO coming out this year. I think it's really going to make a big difference, and I'm very excited for it.
Definitely. That's going to be something good too.
Well, thanks so much for coming on tonight, Grayson. Where can people find you?
I appreciate you inviting me, and people who want to look at my YouTube page. It's called Wildwoods Honeybee Farms, and I guess I have like 255 videos on it, so there's a lot of videos. If you want to go back and look at some of the old ones, there's some good ones on there too. We do live streamings every Monday night, kind of like you do here. On Friday night, try to get guests on, and we really got we've got a good future for our channel and getting more guests on. And like I said, I appreciate you inviting me on here. I had a good chat, and hopefully beekeepers can, look at it and have, some good information, learn from this chat. And, I've learned a good bit from this chat too. So I appreciate it.
Well, I'm happy to, we'll do this again in a couple months or in a year. So thanks for coming on, everybody. I hope you have a great night. Thank you for watching. And Grayson and I are going to stay on, but we're going to end the chat here. Yeah. So hope everybody has a great night. Yeah, thanks for watching.